Good morning and welcome to Norcal APEX Accelerator's webinar, an overview of the SBA Mentor Protégé Program, with a special note of the SBA portal upgrades. My name is Amanda Anderson. I'm the program coordinator for Norcal APEX Accelerator, and today we're joined by the amazing Mary Jo Juarez, one of our procurement specialists who focuses on being a connector of businesses. She was at one point the deputy for small business and has worked as a contracting officer for the Department of the Navy. But she found her passion in working with small businesses to help them do business with the government. But before I pass it over to Mary Jo, I do want to let you know a little bit about Norcal APEX Accelerator and how the APEX Accelerator program can help you with government contracting. So the APEX Accelerator program is a federally mandated nationwide program that institutes and funds centers, just like Norcal APEX Accelerator, that are here to help you with anything government contracting related. We have over 96 centers across the US, so even if you are outside of our Northern California service area, there is absolutely an APEX Accelerator near you that you can connect with to take advantage of this absolutely no-cost government procurement counseling. But what exactly does that assistance, that government contracting assistance, look like? Well, at Norcal APEX Accelerator, we're able to offer our services to the 15 Northern California counties that you see on your screen. And we offer these services through three main pillars. Our one-on-one counseling, where once you apply with us and are accepted as a client, you will be connected with one of our procurement specialists, just like Mary Jo, who can sit down with you one-on-one over Zoom, or if you are local to Humboldt County, we have an in-person office on Cal Poly Humboldt University campus. And your counselor really acts as a connector of sorts, a coach in your corner in a way. They'll be there for you whenever you need within their working hours and within reason. And they're here to help you with questions or walkthroughs or to help you review a solicitation that you're interested in. We can even help you with compliance after you win your first contract, or maybe you're looking to get your first certifications. Your one-on-one counselor will be your coach in your corner to help you throughout your government contracting journey. But the second pillar, and another benefit of becoming a client with APEX Accelerator, is the custom bid matching program that we have. Now, what this does is it allows you to sit down with your counselor and define criteria of what you're looking for in a good solicitation. Whether that's you can only perform services in a certain geographic location, or maybe you want to just list your NICS codes or UNSPCs. Or maybe your product, your service is so innovative and so new that the product itself and the product name would be what you're really looking for in those solicitations. Your counselor can help you define this criteria, and we enter it into our system. And that system is able to scrape both local, state, and federal procurement sites and send you solicitations meeting that criteria. So solicitations that are relevant to you and your business. And it'll send them directly to your inbox. It's an absolutely fantastic service that we're delighted to be able to offer to our clients at absolutely no cost. And third is our resources and trainings, which you're actually taking advantage of right now. We put on many webinars and in-person events throughout the year covering topics like Mentor Protégé programs, like SBIR and STTR innovation grants, and even more introductory ones, like how to position yourself for government contracting success. Maybe a certification overview is what you're looking for. These webinars happen throughout the year and then live on our website for your review after the fact. But our website also boasts a ton of links and resources that you can explore on your time, on your demand, and even without being in our service area. So if you're coming to us from maybe Southern California or even way across the East Coast, you can absolutely check out our website and our webinar recordings and our live webinar events without even being a client or in our service area. It truly is a resource for everyone. So if you have not had a chance to reach out to Norcal APEX Accelerator, if you're in our service area, please do so. We would love to bring you on as a client and helps you find your success in government contracting. But if you are outside of our service area, remember, there are 96 centers across the US that are funded to help you with government contracting at absolutely no cost. So definitely get connected if that's the kind of assistance you're looking for. And with that, I will go ahead and pass it off to Mary Jo.
Hey, thank you so much, Amanda. I'm really excited to be here with all of you today. There's a lot that we're going to go over. We've got some changes and some additions, and I'm just really excited to present this to you. Our agenda is we're going to have a brief discussion about the Mentor Protégé Program, and the Mentor Protégé Program has two parts. The first one is a Mentor Protégé Agreement, which we'll talk about, and then joint ventures. And then we will end it by talking about changes to the program. I'm also going to go over some of the risk and commitments of this program with you. We're going to discuss how to find a mentor. And I'm going to start off pretty early with what the benefit from a subcontracting plan is for you, because it also ties into this program. Okay, so our training disclosure is the information provided herein is accurate to the best of my ability at the time of this presentation. Some or all of the provisions mentioned herein could or may be changed by the current administration with or without any prior notice. Next slide, Amanda. Thank you. Oh, you're quick. Okay, so the Mentor Protégé Program was basically established to help you by working with prime contractors, and they're generally large prime contractors, but not always, but they're to help you to grow. Okay, so originally this program was set up as the 8A Mentor Protégé Program, and it was strictly for 8A firms. Then they changed it to the all small Mentor Protégé Program, and then they just merged everything into the SBA Mentor Protégé Program, which is what we're talking about now. Now, these large prime contractors are really important to you, and I'm going to take a couple minutes and just explain why and explain how you can use your relationships with them to your benefit. So anytime the government has a project that's over $10,000, they need to do market research to see if there are 2 or more small businesses that are qualified and can do the work that they put out there. And that's why you see sources sought. When you see sources sought, I know a lot of small businesses don't respond because it's not submitting a proposal. But it's really important to respond because that's a government's research tool to determine whether or not they're going to set it aside for small business. A lot of times, the projects will go to large businesses for a variety of reasons. It can be that the dollar value's too large and a small business would never be able to bond. It can be because of national security, or it can be because a project has so many different moving parts and different subcontractors or very technical information that a small business won't be able to handle it. But it's extremely important that when you see those sources sought, that you respond, because it's also a marketing tool for you so that the people in the government who are reviewing the responses to sources sought can start associating your name with the different industries that you're working in. Now, any large prime who gets one of these large contracts, and pretty much every large company out there has them. Microsoft has them, Google has them, Amazon has them. Everybody, IBM has a contract, for instance, to monitor how well the mail flows. Okay, so they all have these large contracts. But every large contract has a legal requirement to have a subcontracting plan in it. And a certain percentage of the dollars that are being subcontracted are required to be set aside for small business. For instance, so they go by social economic goals. They look at women-owned, they look at HUBZone, they look at service disabled vet, they look at minority-owned and overall small business. The legal requirement right now for a small business is 30%. The other percentages go between 3 and 5%. The contracting officer has the ability to raise those percentages. And I have seen the percentage for small businesses as high as 78% of the subcontracting dollars need to go to small businesses. So this is in essence one of your superpowers as a small business. And when you are marketing or looking at working with these large primes, whether you're looking at going into a mentor protege program or whether you're looking at being a subcontractor, the fact that you are a small business, that you know you're a small business, that you know they need your help and you know how to market to them is really a critical skill. And I'll come back to this again and tie it all in a later slide to this particular program. Next slide, please. So the Mentor Protégé Program, the first step is a formal agreement that the SBA has to review and approve. So the mentor can be large or small. They are generally large businesses because of the type of work or the type of skills that they need to give to you as a small business are generally obtained from a large business. The protege has to be small, and that's according to your size standard, which is determined by your NAICS code. And if you need help with that, please come and talk with us, with your counselor, and we can help you figure that out. There's an initial term of 3 years, and you can get a 3-year extension. The mentors cannot have more than 3 proteges at one time, and they generally have to be in different industries. But the protege can only have 1 mentor at a time and cannot have more than 2 mentors in the lifetime of their business and the SBA Mentor Protégé Program. And the reason for that limitation is when you're talking a total of 12 years, they kind of figure you should be able to gain all the skills that you require for your business in that time. The mentor must be for profit and they can't own more than 40% equity in the small business. If there is a problem, if you get into this agreement, and we'll talk about this again and in more detail back in the risks and commitments, but I just wanted to let you know now that if there is an issue with your mentor and for some reason you find the program's not going as you think it should, if you let the SBA know within the first 18 months that it's not working, they will generally not count that particular mentor protege program that did not work against you, and you can still go back in for 2 more. Next slide, please. So the SBA has a number of different areas, and this is also on their website. They're also on their website. There is a template. The big thing is it just basically ties down both sides as to what assistance they're going to provide you. And this is critical because you need to know what it is that you need to know. And we'll go over some of the services that you might need in just a minute in another slide. But you need to know what it is that you need, and you need to have those items in your business plan as part of your growth as you're growing. The mentor will have a single point of contact, which is really good because that person's responsible for managing the agreement, and you'll have a direct line, a direct connection. You'll need to have the assistance outlined for at least 1 year. Again, it'll tell you, you have to go in and explain how it's going to help you to grow. And then there's a general statement that they also have that either party can terminate it with 30 days notice to both parties in the SBA, and of course, signatures and dates. There is also an annual mentor protege report that is due to the SBA, and this program requires that the protege self-perform. The protege is responsible for self-performing and ensuring that this is not strictly a pass-through where a large business is going to use you to send work to another large business. So as you're subcontracting, you need to be thinking about that, but we'll go into that a little deeper in the risks. Next slide, please. So the agreement requires that you spend some time and go into detail on these 3 items, as we talked about: your needs, the assistance, and also a metric as to how the success is going to be measured. And these are, as you're putting this together with your mentor, if you want somebody from the APEX to review this and maybe offer a little bit of advice, that second set of eyes, we're happy to do that. Now, it's critical for you to do your research at this point and make sure that the mentor has a good reputation and that they're willing and able to coach and mentor you. If you haven't worked with them before, what do you know about them? How did you go in and explore how they've worked in the past? And are your values the same? Are goals that you have goals that they've already met? And if they happen to approach you, you need to find out the reason why they're approaching you. And we'll talk about that again more in risks, but it's something really good to always keep in mind. And I've had several clients recently where a large business has reached out to them to see if they would be interested in a mentor protege, but the initial emails that they sent out to the clients didn't have any reason as to why the large business was interested in the small business, or if they even knew anything about the small business. If it was just a generic reaching out email to see who responded, let's throw everything on the wall and see what comes back, or if they had a genuine interest in that particular business. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the mentors and the protege's responsibilities. So the mentor can provide any number of types of assistance that you need, whether it's technical assistance, for instance, proposal writing. Do you need help developing your proposal? Do you need financial assistance? Do you need back bonding? Do you need understanding CMMC and getting through that particular program, or any other government compliance? Do you need assistance in business development? Do you need to reach out and be able to use some of the large businesses' contacts in order to develop yourself? Or do you need help with administrative programs and setting up, or you've probably already got your business set up as far as the administrative goes? Do you need to fine tune it as you're moving forward? The protege's responsibilities are to make sure that the assistance that you ask for is something that you really need and that it's in your business plan. Then you are the one who's responsible for the annual report. And as I just mentioned before, you are the one who's responsible to make sure that you are self-performing in any contracts that the 2 of you get together. Okay, next slide, please. This is a list of the documentation that the SBA is going to ask for. And again, this is something that we can generally help you with. The second one there, a copy of the Protégé's 8A profile, that isn't specific to 8A. That's everybody's. They want a copy of your profile. However, the third one is specific to 8A companies only. So basically, they're going to want a copy of the mentor's tax returns. They have other forms that are on the website that you can use. Your SAM profile for both the mentor and the protege, and the company's narrative. And again, if you have questions, we can assist you with this. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so once you have the Mentor Protégé Agreement set up and signed by the SBA, then you go in and you form a joint venture. So a joint venture is where the mentor and the protege come together. It's a complete new legal entity that must be registered in SAM. It has its own UEI. It has its own cage codes. Okay, the SBA is not going to help you with the joint venture. We can review and assist you with the joint venture at our level, but it's going to be up to you if you want legal review of your joint venture. And in many cases, I would recommend that, because this process here can, if this doesn't go well, it can really harm your company. The joint venture has a requirement, and this will be on the next slide, of a certain percentage that the small business needs to own. But the ownership and the cost sharing in the joint venture, in a lot of cases, are not the same, and they're two different issues that have to be worked out. The ownership, if you want to go to the next slide, I think that's fine. Amanda, next slide.
I believe I just did.
You did. Okay, sorry. Okay, I had a little delay there. So the small business needs to own 51%, but that doesn't mean necessarily that the small business and the cost sharing will get 51%. Again, that's something that you need to work out as part of this agreement. These are other suggestions for the joint venture. One of the requirements is that the protege is the managing partner and provides the project manager. Both parties have to sign a course. Everything that's going to be shared needs to be listed. Each party's responsibilities needs to be delegated out. Who's going to do negotiations? Are both parties going to be involved in negotiations, or is just one party going to be involved in negotiations? And this is going to obligate all of the parties to make sure that the contract is performed. Okay. Next, there we go. Okay, so the manager venture, which is a small business, is responsible for all accounting and administration records. And that being said, that doesn't mean that you can't ask for assistance with that, and that be part of the benefit that you're receiving from the large firm. All annual financial statements have to be submitted to the SBA within 45 days of the end of each operating year. And then a project and performance of work will be submitted to the SBA within 90 days of the completion. So we've already talked about the fact that you're going to have an annual report due. Now you've got some other compliance reports that are coming due also. Okay, next slide, please. Oops. Okay, let's go back to the other slide. There are a couple things I want to bring in before we get to this one. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, Amanda. I do want to talk about the risks here for just a moment. There is a commitment to work in the program and learn and benefit, but sometimes it's really difficult when you're actively working and you've got other things going on all around you at the same time. So I often suggest to the small businesses who are the proteges that what they do is set up a system for tracking real time what they've done throughout the year. This not only helps with the contract reporting, it not only helps with the end of year reporting, but it will also help you with future proposals, because as we're jumping from one thing to the next, we tend to forget everything that we've done. And if you have this all documented in one place, you can cut and paste and use that information for your past performance, past experience with future proposals. You as a small business are responsible for making sure that all the regulations, rules, and processes are followed. And again, this is an area that we can really help you with. You need to make sure, as I mentioned before, that you are not used by the prime contractor for their benefit only. I've had it happen when I was a contracting manager or contracting officer and also the deputy for small business. I had it happen numerous times where the prime contractor took off with the project, leaving the protege in the dust. And the protege didn't pay attention and didn't mention anything until the end and did not receive the education and the profit that they deserved. So basically both failed. And if you can just kind of keep in your mind or on paper or in your computer, however you choose to do it, what's going on daily, it's also going to be a really good judge for you as to whether this is working or not. However, all of that being said, if you ever fail, be sure to put the processes in place to fix it. And then again, keep track of what you did to fix it so it didn't happen again, because I'm seeing a couple proposals recently that the part of one of the requirements was that the contractor explain an area where they failed and what they did to fix it. That was part of the technical proposal, and it was just a real brief little sentence in the middle of a bunch of other stuff. But they were looking for it. Now, as I talked about, this relationship is not speed dating. You know how we used to call it speed dating, where you would go in and you would meet with a contractor and present information to them, and then you would hope you could follow up and get some type of work. This is more of a marriage that requires courtship and dating. And this is kind of hard for me to speak from experience because, you know, it doesn't always work out. But that's okay, because if it doesn't work out during that process, then you need to go find another mentor to look with. This is the only program, the only Mentor Protégé program. There are many out there, but this is the one where the joint venture, whatever the joint venture status is based on the small business status. So in other words, if you are an 8A and you hook up with a large business in this program, then your joint venture is going to be 8A. And remember how I talked at the beginning of how you can, if you understand the basics of how a prime contractor operates and what they need, this gives them the opportunity to participate in service disabled programs, 8A, woman-owned set-asides, that type of program where they can't get into on their own. So as you're marketing to them and you're working with them, remember that, again, this is your superpower. This is what keeps you upright and going as you have a benefit. You're not at their mercy just because somebody comes to you and says, hey, Mary Jo, I want to be your mentor, and we'll work really well together. That doesn't mean that's going to happen. I would say, okay, you want to be my mentor, but I know what benefit I'm providing you. And these are the absolute benefits that I would need from you to help me grow. And I want to monitor them and make sure that you're providing me these benefits so that it's an equally beneficial relationship for both parties. Okay. Next one. Yes. So when you're ready to go ahead and reply and apply, we have the link here. Now this goes into some of the changes with the SBA 8A program, not 8A program, the SBA Mentor Protégé Program. In the past, you did not have to take a tutorial and print out the certificate. Now the certificate is part of the application process, and both the mentor and the protege need to do this. And we've included the link at the bottom here, which will be sent out to you. Now, I also mentioned that I wanted to talk to you about how to find a mentor. If we could do the next slide. One of the other changes is that the SBA has a list of all the approved mentors in the link that you'll be provided. Now, some of these mentors may have, and some of them certainly do have, current proteges, and some of them may not. But just because, again, you call them up and say, I'd like to set up a mentor protege, it may take several visits, it may take several calls. It's building that relationship, because you're going into a 3, possibly 6-year long relationship, and you need to understand how the other party handles problems when they come up. Do they just throw blame around and look at you? Oh, you're the small business, you're going to be the person standing in front of the contracting officer explaining or trying to explain what went wrong? Are you going to be the one that has to absorb the costs if there's a delay or a product doesn't show up? So it is a process, and this list is a guide for you. But also remember that when you're out there at the NorCal events and you're meeting large businesses, that there's a good chance of finding a mentor there also. Also, if you go on a job walk, and you can go not because you want to be a prime contractor, you may want to be a subcontractor, but you can also be looking for a mentor on that job walk also. So there's a number of ways. This list that the SBA provided is a tool in a pile of tools that are out there to help you find a mentor. The biggest challenge is not having a list, it's going through it and starting maybe by looking at their websites and look at what they've done and looking what their mission statement is and looking what their goals are, and then talking with them. How easy are they to talk with? How easy are they to connect with? Do they have a small business liaison officer? That's generally, we call them deputies for small business, but whether you're with the agency or whether you're with a prime contractor, that individually is generally your gatekeeper. And they're the ones who will be your advocate for this particular program, and go to their estimators and go to their contracting people and say, hey, look, this might work. So just some food for thought to keep in mind. Okay. So we also will have the application link for you here. And Amanda, can I turn it back over to you at this point for questions?
Absolutely. I've been answering a couple questions in the Q&A and in the chat as they come in, but all in all, Mentor Protege, especially with the SBA, is an opportunity for you. And our procurement specialists, just like Mary Jo and just like the rest of our team, really want to see you succeed. And we're here to help you find that success. So if you are interested in developing that relationship with those prime contractors and getting into the Mentor Protégé program, please do connect with Norcal APEX Accelerator or your local APEX Accelerator if you're outside of our service area. Remember, our services are at absolutely no cost, so you may as well utilize the resources you have. And as Mary just stated, I do want to let you know about a couple of events that are coming up. This is our final event for 2024. But in 2025, we already have a couple events scheduled and we'll have even more on the calendar very soon. First up is I'm Certified Now What, which is a contracting training put on in partnership with California Department of General Services. And that will be happening virtually on January 16th. That's going to be a fantastic event. It's part of a 3-session series. So if you missed the first session, don't worry. It is on our webinar library webpage on our website. So you can absolutely find that and sign up for the second and third event as well. And also in January, towards the end of the month on the 28th, we will be joined by CAL FIRE and U.S. Forest Service representatives to present to you how you can become a wildland firefighting vendor for this upcoming fire season. And just to reiterate, all of these trainings, all of our services are at absolutely no cost to you. We will never ask you for any sort of payment information. So we do hope that you're able to take advantage of these resources. And with that, we'll go ahead and go into questions. And we have a decent amount of time for questions. We had some really good questions in the Q&A section. So as you kind of synthesize what you just heard and kind of reflect on it, please enter any questions you have into the Q&A section. And I'll be going down the list in order. So first up, John was wondering, you mentioned that large prime contractors obtain incentives for participating in the Mentor Protégé program. What kind of incentives do these prime contractors get?
The biggest thing that they get is they get to become involved in contracts that they normally could not touch because of your social economic status. In other words, if you're a small business, if you're an A to A, if you're a woman-owned business, those that are set aside for you as part of a joint venture, they get to take part in those contracts.
Awesome. And then Jamie had a couple of questions that I actually thought were a little bit too in-depth for a generalized webinar, but highly recommend connecting with procurement counseling services. So sign up with us or your local APEX Accelerator. And that procurement specialist will be able to sit down with you and go through all of these questions and help to make sure you understand them. But if we have time, I will be circling back to them because they are very good questions, but a little too in-depth for right now. Someone was also wondering if there's a list for mentors that protégés can choose from, and we did show that on our slides, and you will have these slides as well as the recording of this event to explore. So you'll be able to explore and really investigate those prime contractors or mentors on that list.
And Amanda, that list is part of, that list is new. Okay, it's one of the changes. So that's a pretty good list.
Which is fantastic, because I know, especially when we do like subcontracting or anything about Mentor Protégé, everybody's like, how do I know who to connect with? And it's great to see that now I believe DoD has a list, and
DoD
now SBA does as well.
Yep.
And then Raquel was wondering, is there a standard form for submitting proposals, or is each contract proposal different?
I am asked so many times for a template, and each proposal is different. Okay, so that being said, let me go into it and just a little bit deeper. the information that you have as a company, you are generally going to use it possibly more than one time, definitely more than one time, but not necessarily over and over again. Depending on the agency and the information they ask, it could be in a different order. Your best bet is to work with your counselor. Every proposal will tell you the number of pages. It'll have like a number one, a number two, a number three. Follow that format. I've read thousands of proposals when I was a contracting officer. I can't believe I actually did that. It did not bring me a lot of joy necessarily because it was really hard to do and we worked really late hours doing it. But if I have my RFP that I wrote and I had a proposal that matched it in the order, that's probably the best advice I can give you in lieu of a template. Because if you use a template over and over again, you're not responding and making it easier for me as the reader to be able to evaluate you without any mistakes on my part.
Fantastic. And yeah, I know that's one of the most common questions we get is like, what is the standard time frame for this? What is a standard template for this? And it's all just so nuanced that it's hard to really create a template for these things.
And even Amanda, in an industry like construction, where there is kind of a standard format for the RFP, you should be able to go to certain sections and find certain things. We're now seeing that other agencies that have not done construction before are now starting to do construction. They've been given warrants to do construction, but they're not following that format. And even recently, some of our most experienced construction contractors have called for help because what they were used to doing is not what's being asked. And it doesn't really, what you're used to doing is wonderful, and it's perfect when you can get into that cycle and know it. But there's always going to be one outliner out there that puts something else out that doesn't match what you're used to doing. So I've helped a couple of clients recently where we've had to actually go through, over 200 pages trying to figure out what they want and then put it in a format where they can look at what they asked for and read what they asked for. So no guarantees, I guess.
Yeah. All right, and we're getting some really good questions in the Q&A section. I appreciate everybody's patience as I kind of sift through. We should have enough time to get to all of them, but I do want to kind of keep them in categories in a sense, just to help Mary Jo's and my brain, honestly. Okay. So John was wondering, you mentioned joint ventures with 8A small businesses automatically inheriting the 8A certification. Is that the same for service disabled veteran-owned small business? So it is?
Under this particular program, whatever the small business is what the joint venture is, what the joint venture becomes. Even if you're small, even if you're a small business, then the joint venture, large and small, can go after those contracts.
That's awesome. And then someone was wondering, what type of strategies do you think proteges can use to find a mentor? And we've touched base on this a little bit in a few different questions, but what strategies or advice would you give someone who's looking to connect with a mentor?
There's a number of different ways to do it. We talked about it. We talked about it kind of in general. For instance, if you're going to go to a Norcal event in person, I would look at who's attending, and then I would pick out maybe 2 or 3 at the most of the large primes who have booths there, do some research on them, and focus on a limited number of primes to talk to at a large event. You can take that list that the SBA has now, and you can go through that list and, start with 3, start with a small number, make it something you can manage, and discard. If you go to their website, you don't see what they like, it doesn't match, and add another one in, and just keep doing that. And then take those 3 and start reaching out to them. How easy are they to get a hold of? Who responds to you? Who's interested in you? Who sets up a meeting after a phone call with you? That type of thing. And just kind of grow it from that point. If you go to a job walk, if you attend any industry specific events, whether they're virtual or whether they're in person, you can kind of filter. It's kind of a filter and sort mode that you go into. And certainly if anybody wants to talk about it or needs assistance with it, we're happy to help.
Absolutely. One of our biggest things is marketing to both government agencies and prime contractors. So that sounds like it'd be kind of in that realm of fine-tuning your marketing skills, fine-tuning your capability statement or scope letter.
And the SBA is also, as part of the evaluation process of the mentor, they have to have a good reputation and good character. And how the SBA defines that is not generally known beyond not being debarred. But they will, when you get to the point of presenting it, if there's an issue and they know about it, they're going to let you know.
Yeah. And then someone was wondering, how long do you have to be in business to be a part of a mentor protege agreement? Is there any kind of business length?
There's not, in the research that I've done, I did not see any kind of business link. That being said, this program is like other government programs where you don't want to take on the workload of this program and struggling to set up the pyramid of your business. In other words, if you're asking for help with accounting, at least have an accounting department that's functioning for you. So the goal is also looking forward for when you grow. This is a program to help you to grow. It's not a program to necessarily set you up. So I've seen where with both the 8A program and with this program where companies have been in business for a very limited time and applied, and it usually doesn't work out as well for them as it does if you have some experience. And with this program, especially because your partner is going to be somebody with a lot of experience. And while you're learning from them, you also have to be strong enough to say, oops, no, that won't work for me. I can't afford that financial liability. What are you going to do to help me? You've got to have some boundaries and stops in place also to protect you. It's all about protecting you as you grow, but continuing to grow. And a lot of the mentors I have seen and worked with are very cognizant and understanding of that. And will often, if I've seen a small business bring its huge project to a mentor, and the mentor said, no, we're not ready for that. Together, we're not ready. If it was us alone, we would be ready. But with the 2 of us together, we're not ready for that yet.
And then John, circling back to the joint ventures questions we've been answering, John was wondering, can a joint venture inherit small business GSA contracts as well? And I'm personally not sure what inherit would mean, but are you familiar with any kind of joint venture GSA contracts or anything of that sort?
I'm not familiar with that particular one. The DoD one I am, but not that one.
Fair, very fair. But we do have procurement specialists on staff who can help with GSA schedules and help figure out where that question should be. So if you're interested, John, please do sign up our services and we should be able to get you that question answered. And then we have a really interesting one that I actually don't know. They are a construction company that has the small business certification, and they're wondering if they should become 8A certified before applying for the Mentor Protégé program. Would that be a benefit or would it be kind of negligible?
I think that's something that you really need to talk to a counselor in person, because there may be some questions. And for instance, if you were my client, I would want to sit down and go over exactly where you are today and what your goals are. It could be beneficial to have it, because then you could get set-asides with the Mentor Protégé program after you had the 8A. But both programs, I don't know about running both programs at the same time. That would be something I would have to sit down and talk with the client about, because both programs require a lot of compliance and a lot of work. So that might be a really good one-on-one, but boy, that's an excellent question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a good clarification too. The 8A
Yeah.
isn't just a certification. It's not like the WOSB or VOSB. It's a full-on program.
It's a full-on program. And if you were in the 8A program, maybe for a year or two, it might be easier for you than if you were brand new or just applying for the program and doing them both at the same time. So again, if we could sit down and talk about that, that would make a difference.
Absolutely. And then this is a really good question about mentors and finding mentors. Someone was wondering if a potential mentor company is just not familiar with the Mentor Protégé program. Is there a website or a link that the protege or possible protege can direct the possible mentor to help them get up to speed?
Yes, and it is on it is on the SBA website. They do have a little blurb, do you want to be a mentor, or something to that effect, that goes into detail as to what they need to do. And honestly, as you're out there marketing, this question is really, really good, because a mentor doesn't have to be anybody who's ever done it before. And if you and them are going in it together and you feel that it's a good fit, there's no reason why it would not work. It just, everybody needs to get up to speed and they know exactly what's required of both parties. But the SBA website does have that information on it for mentors, and they do need to take the little test, just as you do, which kind of leads you through all the responsibilities and everything.
Absolutely. And one little thing on the end of that question is, can they talk to Apex directly? And the answer is absolutely.
Yes.
While we do focus a lot of our marketing on outreach on getting smaller businesses engaged in government contracting, we help any business, no matter size, no matter status, no matter anything. As long as you have a business registered with the state and in progress, you're able to make sales at this time, we are absolutely delighted to take you on as a client and offer our procurement assistance.
Yep.
Someone was wondering about the goals and metrics for an MPA. Is it reasonable to set monetary goals? Or would they have to be more like we did such and such action kind of goals?
That is also a really, really good question. And I would think of course, monetary goals matter a big deal, but, Amanda, it's just a gut feeling. My gut feeling is the SBA would want more than that. But that's just, from my research and whatnot.
And I'm sure settling the agreement with SBA, because they have to approve these agreements,
Right.
correct? That would kind of be where you would get that feedback if the goals are acceptable. But I do see the logic behind you saying probably not, because the goal isn't to get you revenue. It isn't to get you guys money. It's to mentor the smaller businesses so that they can sustain themselves on their own. So it seems to me like SBA would be looking for goals and metrics related to your education and growth more so than any money value.
And to your growth, I think the money would follow as you're growing.
That's the idea.
Yep, yep.
And we are just about time. We still have quite a few questions left. I have saved a couple that either are a bit too off topic to ask during this webinar or maybe a bit too specific to your situation. So I do apologize if your questions are not getting answered. But if you are looking for that assistance and to really get into government contracting, please do connect with Norcal APEX Accelerator or your local APEX Accelerator for your region. We would be happy to get into the nitty-gritty details with you during a counseling session. Let's see. Yeah, let me go ahead and if we could just, these are kind of recap questions. I think that these would be a really good way to kind of round out the presentation. So Mary Jo, can you let me know what kind of reports are required for an MPA and about how frequently are those reports granted?
Well, you have a yearly report that the protege is responsible for submitting, and it's quite a detailed report. It's granted, it's online and you can go through, but they're looking for what you've done and what you've improved. And then you have another type of reporting that's done when you get a contract at certain periods of time for that specific contract.
And then for payment schedules, is there an overarching standard of payment schedules, or would that be determined in the MPA agreement?
That would be determined if it's not in the MPA agreement, that would be in the joint venture agreement. And you need to really pay attention to that as to who's being paid and when they're being paid. And are you waiting for payment for everybody until the government pays you? Or is the prime going to go ahead and start paying people before the government pays? What happens if an invoice isn't submitted correctly to the government? But again, that's another skill that you could learn from the mentor, is submitting those invoices promptly and correctly to get paid.
Absolutely. And with that, it is the top of the hour. So thank you all so much for joining us today. And for this presentation, thank you so much, Mary Jo, for really getting into the new system and getting us all of these great details. And as you guys exit the webinar, you will be automatically redirected to our event feedback survey. If you have a brief moment, we would always appreciate your feedback, whether it's negative or positive. We truly do these webinars and these events to help you. And if we could be doing them better for you, whether it's a certain topic you'd like to see, or maybe a type of event that we don't do often, but you would really love to see, that's the point in this feedback survey where you can really let us know. On the flip side, if you think this was a fantastic presentation and would love to see more of these, we would also love to know that as well. We really do these events for you, and so your feedback is truly invaluable to us continuing to provide the best content and training we can. And so with that, thank you all so much for joining us today, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your days and a fantastic holiday season.
Thank you, everybody.